Hello and hello. Thank you for joining me. How you guys doing? 15 Things Americans Don't Understand About Germans. Certainly very intriguing title. And it's by Nolf, a legend here on YouTube. Check him out, link down below. He makes really awesome videos about Germany and stuff. So I know this is going to be interesting. Let's see if I don't know all 15 things. Let's see.
I made a video called, guys, last week I made a video called 15 Things That Germans Don't Understand About Americans. Well, I've lived in Germany for a long time. I'm sort of an expert on this subject, I believe, and I would like...
I think he actually plays like American football in Germany, which is an insane job to have.
To now make the opposite of that video, which is 15 things that Americans don't understand about Germans. Now, please keep in mind, I am not saying specifically that I don't understand these things, okay? There's going to be some stuff on this list that I don't understand, and I will make that very clear, but there will be some stuff on this list that...
That's funny. Even the guy making the list doesn't understand it. Yeah. It's not just like things people don't know. He's like, okay, I see this is what Germans do, and I still don't understand it.
So maybe the typical American doesn't understand, or I didn't understand when I first came to Germany, and since living here, I sort of understand it more. So keep that in mind. These are not necessarily 15 things that Nauf doesn't understand about Germany. It's 15 things that Americans, for the most part, don't understand about Germany.
All right,
without further ado, let's get into the list. Let's start off with one that I actually don't understand, and that is Germans unnecessarily changing movie and TV titles when they're translated into German. This is a kind of a funky one. Now, Feely from Germany has made a great video about this with really good examples of it, but basically...
I'm writing that down. That sounds extremely interesting. Here, let me write it down real quick. All right.
Oftentimes, there will be a movie made in the American market that has an English title, right? Yeah. And then they translate it to the German market, and oftentimes they'll dub the movie. And you'd think they'd change the title to something in German, which that makes sense when they do that. But what is confusing is when they change the English title to another English title, that's just weirder. For example, the movie Taken. In English, it's called Taken because the girl gets taken. But in German, the movie is called 96 Hours. Why? Sometimes there are translations that make sense because certain words would have double meanings and they don't.
That is just super weird. And honestly, just from like a PR standpoint or like a marketing standpoint, you'd think that that's very questionable. Because a lot of the discussion, I mean, a ton of Germans speak English. Like a huge amount. And so, you know, a lot of times before going to see a movie, people want to like see what people are saying about it. And they might want to, you know, so just in terms of searching for the movie on the internet, like Taken, you know, reviews. If it's not, if you rename it to 96 Hours, that kind of throws that whole thing off.
Makes sense in the other culture.
And how is that necessary at all? That is weird. Maybe the word taken, the only thing I can think is that maybe the word taken, like translated to German, somehow doesn't like have that same implication. Like, oh, someone's been taken, like kidnapped. I don't know.
But there are some examples like that just don't make any sense, and it feels that they are unnecessarily changing titles.
Is that even the decision of a German person, or is it like the American, you know, because it's an American movie and they're just releasing it in Germany. So who's making that decision? I guess certainly Germans would have been in on the discussion. Like, no. Taken doesn't make any sense here. We need to change that title.
In a comically goofy, silly way. And I don't understand that. That's one that I don't understand still.
Oh my gosh, that music is a hair loud in my headphones.
This one absolutely shocked me when I first came here, and I actually made a video about this that was one of my first videos to get a lot of views, and that is the 3-path or 3-track school system, where students are separated at like age 11 or 12 into 3 different paths.
It's that young? Wow, that's wild. That is so interesting. And honestly, I've reacted to like the school system and I still don't understand it. So this is one of those things where like he was saying, you know, like I heard it. I definitely don't understand all the details. And I don't understand like if people are okay with that.
Tracks.
With the system.
Based on their ability. So you've got the highest track, gymnasium, and these are sort of students who are on pace to go to university. You've got the Realschule, which is sort of the middle track, and then you've got the Hauptschule, which is the lower track. Now this is something that is quite startling for Americans to hear, that you separate kids at such a young age. That
is almost like so startling, it's comical. It's like, whoa. You can do that?
And
that's so like antithetical. Like that's so efficient. Don't get me wrong. That's very efficient. But just like, you know, here in America, you tell every child, you can do anything. You can do anything. And don't ever let anyone tell you you can't. You can go to the moon, okay? If you put your mind to it. That's what you tell every child here. Which I mean, in some ways that's good, some ways that's bad, you know. Certainly results in some crushed dreams. But like, yeah, so just being like, hey, 12-year-old, you're probably, you know, I don't think you're fit for university, probably. You know, but also at the same time, surely they can still pursue whatever they want to pursue, right? Obviously, they can. It's just kind of like guiding them toward what is probably going to be the outcome, I guess. It's interesting. Anyway,
basically,
clearly I genuinely don't understand it very well.
Determined their path in life from that young age. So I was pretty shocked about that at first, but then you learn more about it. There is ability to move in between the tracks, so you're not locked into it permanently, and stuff like this. And so there's also another benefit to it, in my opinion, is that it's, you know, creates and encourages people to go into very important jobs in trades, you know, whether that be carpentry, electrician, plumbing, things that are super valuable and important to society that there's often a shortage of workers for. We certainly deal with this in the United States because everyone is encouraged.
The funny thing is I always hear, at least, that in Germany there's a shortage. I hear that from the German subreddit, you know. Then again, it's usually people saying it ironically. They're like, oh, they say there's a trade shortage, and yet I've applied to 45 jobs and haven't heard back. But apparently there's a trade shortage in Germany and the U.S. I don't know.
Oh, you have to go to university to be successful and have a good life, and now there's a sort of a dilution of the university degrees. Everybody's got a college degree. They've almost become worthless now. And
yeah, that issue has kind of, I feel like, kind of like worked itself out. Because that sentiment is very much, you know, like here in America. It used to be, oh, you need to get a degree. Now, it very much has shifted and evolved into like actually going into debt straight out of high school instead of like pursuing a trade that you could do for much cheaper. Might be a stupid thing to do, depending on whatever degree you're going for. You know, it might not be worth it. And you might be better off going into a trade, you know, and that is definitely the mindset of a lot of people. And I think, anecdotally at least, it seems like a lot of students or younger kids believe that and are pursuing trades.
So I find that the three-path school system does have some benefits, but for Americans first hearing about it, it is a shocking thing and seems pretty harsh.
Yeah, it really is shocking.
Now this one, the privacy paradox. This one I still struggle to understand a little bit. So it sort of has two components. Nudity. Germans are totally comfortable being nude, not necessarily in public, but yeah, kind of in public, whether it's at nude beaches or specifically in the sauna. No problem with just full-fledged nudity, something that in America is a much more private thing. Okay, so you've got this sort of freedom feeling with what Americans deem as a private aspect of your life. You've got that, but then Germans are so protective of their privacy in other aspects of life, such as online stuff. For example, you know, Google Maps doesn't have Street View here for the most part because people are so concerned about their privacy. So this is what I'm calling the German privacy paradox. Some aspects of
it seems like the Germans are much more concerned about the privacy in terms of like their data and like their ability to be surveilled, which I certainly, and I've said this a million times, but I have a lot of respect for that. I think that's really cool. To have that awareness and to be constantly skeptical of giving your private information over to anybody, the government, a corporation, you know. And for that reason, you know, and that's part of the reason cash is so popular in Germany, and I think that's really cool.
Life, Germans have no.
But as far as like nudity, like that's a different type of privacy. And it is kind of interesting. Like, you can't steal someone's identity just by seeing them naked.
Desire for privacy when it comes to, like, nudity or PD.
But I have seen in videos, like, Germans are certainly more against, like, being on camera. Like, if someone's just walking down the street with a camera in the United States compared to Germany, like, in the U.S., people don't really care. In Germany, I've seen it where people will be like, you know, get the camera off me or whatever. And certainly there is some of that here in the States too. Don't get me wrong. Everything's, you know, a generalization, but it's just more of that culture, more of that private culture in Germany. So like, I don't know. My point with that is that like showing yourself on camera, it is a visual thing, just kind of like being nude. I don't know. I'm trying to, I don't know if that made any sense, but, you know, I'm drawing a parallel there where it's like, why do Germans not want to be on camera, which is a visual thing, visual privacy. But then as far as being nude in public, it's not as big of a deal. I'm sure they don't want to be nude on camera. Maybe that's why they don't want to be on camera, because they're nude.
EA. But then on the other end of the spectrum, when it comes to online privacy, they have a extreme desire to be incredibly private. So this privacy paradox is something that I think Americans have a hard time wrapping their mind around because it sort of contradicts itself. It's like, are you fully desiring privacy in life, or are you not?
I wouldn't say it contradicts itself, although I mean, he's just saying some people might see it that way or like be confused and see it that way. But it is a little bit, it's interesting to try to fully understand it.
I'm not going to say I fully don't understand it, but there's parts of it that I don't understand. This one is interesting to me. It is basically what Germans deem to be cool style cars. Now, in Germany, you will often see people driving cars that have this hatchback look. Okay, it looks like this, the hatchback.
The wagons.
Whereas in the States, more people those are less common, and you'll see more either like SUV types or sedan type cars. The hatchback, in my opinion, and I think a lot of Americans' opinions when I talk to Americans, the hatchback is not cool.
I feel like that needs to be amended, you know, and I know this video's 4 years old. I feel like there is a, let me pull it up real quick. If you have, there's like, for instance, I feel like there's a whole community. I don't know. I'm not a big car guy, okay? But like, there is this community that really likes hatchbacks, like a Honda Civic hatchback, and then they soup it up and make it faster and shit. That's just a normal Honda Civic hatchback. I'm not a car guy, so it's hard for me to, I don't understand it. But so it's hard for me to explain, that here in America, there does seem to be some kind of like hatchback. But with that said, the wagon, which from what I understand is much more popular in Germany, that's a slightly different thing. And that's not popular here in America. Am I making any damn sense?
It's kind of dorky looking.
But you know what is popular? Like, you know what is cool? Really cool. German cars. Basically any Mercedes, BMW, Porsche. I mean, you're cool. You know what I mean? Audi. Those are the coolest cars. That's just the way it is.
It's funky looking. It's just seems kind of, I don't know, out of place and ugly. And I've always thought this when I first came to Germany. I'd see a lot of the young guys when they, got a job and they started getting paid and they're able to get their own car. They choose to get a car like this weird hatchback looking car. Like, no young American guy would ever pick this type of car, but it is so prevalent among Germans. And it's just interesting to me that this is actually looked upon as sort of a cooler stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, but it seems to me maybe it's because it's just such a practical design. The only thing that is a little confusing is clearly Germans love cars and they love fast cars. They love fast cars. They love the whole racing and all that, and being particular with, and I mean, this is why German cars are unfortunately expensive to maintain, and it's the reason I don't have one. It's because it's expensive to maintain because you have to get the specific oil filter and change, and you have to use, premium gasoline and, blah, 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 blah. But Germans are, willing to do that for that 5% extra performance. Which goes, like, my point was, you know what adds 5% performance? Having a sedan instead of a wagon. That adds some performance, right? I think. So in that way, it's a little confusing. But Germans are very practical. So they like the wagon and the hatchback. More you can get access your cargo. I appreciate that. I really like that. I'm a practical guy. So I like having, the hatchback instead of just the normal trunk, that type of thing.
Style. When I'm walking in the city yesterday and I look in the parking lot and I see just a row of cars and all of them have hatchback back. I'm just not enough of a car guy. That's something I struggle with sometimes in this type of, car subjects, considering I'm not a car guy. But like, I look at these and wouldn't something like an Audi Q5 or Q3 fit in here? In fact, one of those might be, I don't know. Those are cool here in the States. Those certainly are cool. So like, I'm not the the right source, I guess, for what even is the difference between like a compact SUV, a wagon, and a hatchback. Like, those are all kind of similar to me, and I struggle to even tell the difference because I must say, let's see here, like this one right here, that looks pretty cool, and this one, that looks pretty cool to me. But then again, what the hell do I know? I'm just saying, it does look kind of cool to me. I'm probably not normal though. And I still, I've gotten more used to them, but I still think they're kind of dorky and not cool looking. Whereas here in Germany, people seem to find them very appealing. A lot of Americans struggle with this, and that is that everything is closed on Sundays. Of course, if you've watched my channel or any American in Germany's channel for a while, you'll know that this is always a shocking thing for Americans. We are so used to being able to get whatever we want, whenever we want, the convenience of basically 24-hour shopping ability.
Although I will say, it's funny because you watch enough of these videos, you might actually be under the misconception that like everything is 24/7 if you come here to the States. Or that, things don't close early on Sunday, which is incorrect. While in a big city, certainly, at any time in the night, you will be able to find things like that are open. That is true. But especially out in suburbs or in a smaller town, if you're going around looking for stuff to be open at 6 or 7 p.m. on a Sunday, probably not going to find too much. A restaurant will be. But even a restaurant might close a little bit early on a Sunday. It might close at 9 p.m., which is kind of late. But, typically they'd be open till 11 p.m. And then other stores, the fish store, the pool store. You might need to go get a fish for your fish tank. It's probably going to be closed a little early. It might even close at 4 p.m. on Sunday, as opposed to, most other days where it closes at 6 p.m.
Is something that a lot of Americans are used to. So the Americans oftentimes have a hard time understanding this things are closed on Sundays culture. But this is something that I actually totally understand now. I've come to like, and it has helped me.
Now, Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays, which is insane. Because the amount of, revenue, that's obviously multi-billion-dollar company. So that's 1 out of 7 days out of the week they're closed, unless people are just going the next day or whatever, you know what I mean? Safe to say, they're losing a good 10% of their revenue by being closed on Sundays, which is, $1 billion, which is pretty interesting. And it's for religious purposes or, that thing, which I guess is the reason that's what, the historical reason that Sundays are. Anyway, let's continue.
You've got to schedule your week around everything being closed on Sunday, and then when Sunday comes, it's a day of rest and relaxation. But for a lot of Americans, they just don't understand.
I will say as well, here in Indiana, I was shocked when I first moved to Indiana that you could not buy liquor on Sundays. How BS is that? Unless you went to the bar, then you could. But from a store, you cannot buy liquor. They changed that law, though. Now it's you can't buy liquor until 4 p.m. or something. It's stupid.
Fear of debit and credit cards, electronic payments.
Goes back to the privacy thing.
Germany, for a country so technologically
and probably just a mistrust of institutions in general.
Advanced, is quite afraid of paying electronically, and cash payments are very prevalent here. I believe a lot more common here than in most other countries in Europe, and certainly in the United States. This one, I sort of understand it, but I also sort of don't. I guess what I do understand is that Germans really value privacy, and electronic card payments are always traceable, whereas cash payments are untraceable transactions. So you get that with paying for cash, but it is oftentimes so inconvenient. And while I have gotten used to it, it is certainly a thing that Americans just don't understand about Germans. What are you so afraid of cards for? Just pull it out, swipe it, good to go.
It is interesting that it's just one of those things where it's unfortunately, my mindset toward it's while I agree toward the principle of the matter, I like privacy. I certainly like the idea of no one being able to track and spy on my transactions. I think that's weird as hell. I've kind of given up, guys. I've kind of given up hope, guys. I feel like at this point, it's kind of sad, though. I'm saying that out loud. I'm like, wow, I sound like a puss, But I'm almost resigned to the fact that Google and the NSA, if they want to find me and they want to know what I purchased, it probably doesn't even matter if I used a card or cash at this point. They could probably figure it out. Which is probably not even exactly true, So I probably am just being a pessimist.
guys, this one gets me going, and I try so hard to understand it. Physical distance awareness in Germany is just brutal for Americans. It is difficult for us to understand. We are used to a certain level of a personal space bubble, and like I've said in previous videos,
you're taught that in kindergarten. You know, you got your personal space. Don't go in someone's bubble.
Nowhere is this more prevalent than in a grocery store, where people will just act as if you don't exist. If you're standing looking at a shelf, you know,
what?
1 foot away from the shelf, people will come and just move in and stand right in front of you, or reach right in front of you without saying excuse me. They'll even physically touch you. It is alarming. It is shocking. We've got scientists around the world working to figure out what the deal is here, but this is something that most Americans do not understand about Germany. And
that's one of those things where if you're an American and you didn't get the memo, and somehow you found yourself in Germany, you might like start a fight, you know, which you shouldn't do. You shouldn't go to someone else's country and culture and, you know, like start a fight about something that, you know, that's just how it is there. But, yeah, certainly if you came to the States and did that, you probably would get yourself into a fight.
Actually,
and everybody's armed.
Me living here for a long time, I still don't understand it.
I should say, because I know that a lot of times I kind of half jokingly say everybody's armed. I never like to exaggerate things, so like I will say that's a little bit of a joke. Like in public, the amount of people that are armed is probably something like 1%. So there you go.
It's me going. Feeling uncomfortable with the German flag and flying the flag. Now, Americans love to fly the American flag. You see it everywhere. A lot of people have them in front of their houses. It is made into merchandise like t-shirts and phone cases and stuff, and this is totally common. Whereas in Germany, it is much rarer to see the German flag. You'll see it around World Cup soccer time, but other than that, it is quite infrequent that you see it. So much so to the point where a few weeks ago when Mikey, my brother, saw a German flag being flown, he was startled. He's like, oh, that's the first time I've seen a German flag here. And this makes sense, especially when you think about the history. There is a very cautious approach to sort of German pride. And I would say that Germans are not sort of flag-waving, chest-thumping, proud of their country. Their pride is displayed in different ways, and this is something that I've learned, that Germans are proud to not be proud, essentially, is a saying that I hear a lot of times about Germans. And they show love and pride for their country with other ways, such as paying into the tax.
It's a very interesting thing, and in a lot of ways I certainly sympathize with that, you know what I mean, that sentiment. You know, I've always been one to be very cautious of, like, any cult-like behavior, you know, or certainly being proud of something that you didn't do. You know, I've always thought that was kind of cringe, you know, like to be proud of, you know, any aspect of whether it's your skin color or your where you were born or whatever. Being proud of something that or something your ancestors did, I always think is weird, and always have thought that. So as far as your country, I have mixed feelings on it. You know what I mean? I have mixed feelings on it.
System which helps benefit people with healthcare and education and stuff like that. This is what I've been told of how Germans show pride. But it is certainly not done with waving the German flag. And this is something that I have come to fully.
Like, in terms of, I think my patriotism toward America is a lot different than a lot of other Americans. Like, I'm proud of a lot of aspects of America, like the idea of it being founded on like a core protocol. And at the core heart of that protocol is that the country should be run by the people. You know, in other words, you know, democracy. You heard of it? And I'm not saying that like we invented democracy. I'm just saying, you know, well, we're very instrumental in being the first large country with a democracy founded by constitution, which really outlines, the core protocol, which I think is really cool. And so I certainly have pride in that, but it's not like, oh, I was born here, so I'm proud of it. It's like, I happen to be born here, and I'm proud of it because I think that's a good idea. I think that's a really good idea. I don't know if that makes sense, but maybe it does.
Understand about Germany. But for most Americans, it's something you've got to learn.
But it also kind of goes back to the thing where it's like, it's not even so much like pride, maybe is the wrong word. I just support that idea. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Water is not free, guys. In the States, anytime you go to a restaurant, you can always ask for a water cup and they'll give you free water, and you can basically get free water.
Yes, but the water... I'm half joking here, the water's safe to drink here in the States. But with that said, it still does contain more chlorine than a German swimming pool. The tap water contains more chlorine than a German swimming pool.
Anywhere, whereas in Germany...
Which really just means German swimming pools barely have any chlorine, which is also the reason why you guys are very strict on, not pooping in the pool.
If you go to a restaurant, you buy a glass of water, it's going to be $3.50. It's going to be oftentimes more expensive than getting a beer, which is quite frustrating if you're trying to...
$3.50 for water?
Be healthy and just drink water. It's more expensive. I don't know if I understand this. I guess you can get tap water if you ask specifically, hey, please give me tap water. But if you ask for a water in general, they're going to give you something that you have to pay for. And Americans...
Sparkling water, right?
Need to be told this. I had to tell my brother this a couple times when we were at restaurants, and he ordered a water, and I had to say, hey, you have to pay for that. And he was like, oh, no, I don't want that then. And so he ordered something else.
Yeah, for people like me, cheap asses, half the reason you get a water, I usually get a water. And it's not because I want water, it's just because it's free. So I'd be pissed if I order a water and it's $3.50. I'd send that shit back. I'm just kidding, but I would be mad at myself. Be like, why did I do that?
Order a drink. This is something that Americans need to learn and at first do not understand about Germany.
Wait, so are dirty bathrooms free?
You have to pay to use the bathroom. Public bathrooms are, for the most part, not free, and you have to pay anywhere from 50 cents to €1 to use them. In America, all public bathrooms...
€1 is just too steep, in my opinion. I got to draw the line somewhere. That's crazy.
...are free. I've never seen a bathroom that you have to pay for in the States. I think there would be an outrage if you saw this. And when Americans come to Germany, they are shocked at this fact. But the plus side is, this money is used to pay someone to clean the bathroom. So more often than not, these public bathrooms that you are using are much cleaner and more hygienic and less of a disgusting mess when you walk into them. And
interesting. And that hugely varies here in the States. For the most part, you go into a bathroom, it's going to be clean. Now, if you're going into a bathroom that's at a public park, where there's not somebody, it's not being, it's not in a restaurant. If you're in a restaurant, then rest assured the bathroom should be clean. If not, that's gross. You're in a nasty restaurant. And yes, you could just walk into the restaurant, and I have done it many times, and been like, sorry, I just need to use your bathroom, if that's okay. And then, just go use the bathroom and then leave, That's perfectly fine. And it's clean. Now, if you go to McDonald's, okay, probably not. Wait, do you have to pay to use the bathroom at a McDonald's in Germany? No way. I'm looking that up. Looking it up right now. Do you have to pay to use the bathroom at McDonald's in Germany? What a question. Oh my God, guys. There happens to be a freaking Reddit post about it. This is the most obscure thing to ever have a Reddit post about. Maybe my first culture shock in Germany, but I was really shocked when I had to pay 50 cents to use their bathroom after I just spent 20 euros for me and my girlfriend's food. You went to Germany with your girlfriend and went to frickin' McDonald's, dude. Sorry. Is this something Germans consider normal? Oh my gosh. Wow. That's pretty remarkable, I have to say. Like, obviously, I've heard about paying for the bathroom in Germany a million times, but I've never actually thought about it like, you have to pay at a fast food place?
Whether that's worth 50 cents or...
You had to pay at a gas station? I guess you would. Now, at a gas station here in the States, your experience may not be so clean. You know, that's kind of notoriously like, or at like a bar, especially at night. That's probably gonna be kind of nasty. That's probably gonna be nasty. If you're at a bar here in the States and it's like 1 a.m., you know, it's been run through by 3,000 dudes peeing all over the floor, it's gonna be nasty. So in that instance, you know, maybe I would prefer to, probably not. I'd probably still just take the pee on the floor and overpaying €1, but I'm a cheap ass.
Euro to you, you must decide that. For the most part, for me, I think 50 cents to 75 cents for a clean bathroom that I'm not disgusted by, it's worth it, probably. But certainly something that, when they first come here, Americans do not understand about Germans.
Now, if you're going number 2, I would pay €1. Okay? If you're going number 2, I would pay €1 for a clean bathroom.
Americans hate to walk. Germans love to walk. Since I've come to Germany, walking has become one of my favorite activities. I go on walks certainly every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day.
2 or 3 times a day?
It is so refreshing.
What?
It is just clean.
In America, going on a walk 2 or 3 times a week would be good.
Clears the mind. It helps me get creative ideas to make videos and all of my creative work.
But I'm not gonna lie, man, it's hot as hell outside. Like, I look at that, you know, he's walking through like this serene forest. I'd be outside walking in the blazing heat with nowhere, like, just like this desert land, you know. Once again, I'm exaggerating slightly, but also like kind of not. I could certainly drive somewhere and go for a nice walk, like on a trail. But would that defeat the purpose if I had to drive there? Some people do. I mean, plenty of people do that. You know, that's what the trail is for.
It's good casual exercise. You get to enjoy the nature and scenery.
Or a hike. Yeah, that's what it's called. A hike.
Around you. I'm a freaking huge fan of walking. But Americans, it's not a walking culture. We're a car culture. And so when Americans come over here, they're always surprised at, you know, Germans going on walks for leisure or recreation, but also being willing to walk distances to get to destinations. That's something that Americans have a much smaller threshold of what is an acceptable distance to walk to get to a destination.
The thought of it is just comical. That would be genuinely like a funny video. Just, it's like a prank. If you went to your family, you're like, hey, let's go walk to the store. They'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? No.
I see this a lot with my brother. Now that I've been in Germany for a while, I am much more willing to walk to places, whereas my brother is shocked at some of these walking proposals that I make. Let's drive, man. Guys, you've heard me complain about this for years, and you know, I've tried to understand it and tried to see it from a different perspective, and I am not budging. It is so stupid and inconvenient that the traffic lights are put on the near side of the intersection. I hate it. I run into issues with it very often. I find it to be dumb. And
this issue I actually ran into myself while driving a simulated bus in Germany. I was so confused. What the? Why is the traffic light up there? Like, I must be doing something wrong. Yeah, I mean, there's not even... I have to agree with my man Nolf here already. Like, no, there's nothing wrong with the way it's done here in the States, you know. In this instance, we're number one. Yes, put the light across the street. Yes.
And inconvenient, and I don't think anything is going to change my mind at this point. I've seen all the arguments. You are unable to take in your surroundings. You're up here cranking your neck, either looking straight up.
I can't even imagine what the arguments are because there's nothing wrong with the way it's done here.
Or looking off to the side. You're not able to take in the whole surrounding of the intersection. I am standing my ground on this
gotta respect that
traffic light situation. I don't understand it, and I know my fellow Americans do not understand.
I'm with you.
This issue. This is a big one, guys. Every American comments on this when they come to Germany. It's the staring. Germany is a country that loves to stare. Every American that I've talked...
I feel like a lot of dudes would get the wrong impression, is my thought always. You know, like, yeah, if ladies staring at you walking down the street, they're going to get an ego. They're going to think, oh, she must like American boys.
Talk to that has come to Germany has experienced this in one way or another. I have been in some incredibly uncomfortable situations with people staring, specifically in my first couple years before I got more used to it and I kind of understood it a little bit more. I'm not saying I totally understand it. I still am pretty confused by it oftentimes, but I will say I believe in American culture, staring at somebody is always a hostile act, especially if you continually stare and you don't look away. This is hey, what's up? You want to do something about this?
It's so funny because I mean, I can't even imagine. I cannot wait to go to Germany and experience this stare. I want to so badly. And the weird part is, even knowing that it's part of the culture, I don't know if I'd be able to help myself but be like, can I help you? What's up? Why are you looking at me? And I almost just would be curious to see the response, you know? I wouldn't be aggressive, but just can I help you? I cannot wait to experience that. It'll be fun. And what he says is absolutely true. Here in the States, if some dude is looking at you and he's looking at you, and you look at him, maybe you nod, you see him looking at you, you go for the nod, and they don't nod and look away. And even if they did do that, certainly if they don't look away, it's okay, apparently it's on, dude. Apparently we're fighting. Apparently we're about to fight at the Walmart in the checkout line, dude. Because this guy's staring at me and he's made it clear we're in a fight. I can't even imagine.
That's how Americans interpret staring. Whereas in Germany, oftentimes staring is more of a curious stare. It's not a threatening stare. And so that's sort of how I've had to look at it in my mind. And it's become less of an issue for me. Still an issue, still happens. Less for me, but something that Americans, especially when they first come to Germany, do not understand. Explicit language in everyday life. Now, we're mostly talking about explicit English language. When I see this on, say, for example, a dad will be wearing a shirt walking around the park with his family, and the shirt says something "Don't f*** with me," or
what? I've never heard this. This is so out of left field. That is not what I would have expected if I was in Germany. I would have expected the opposite for some reason.
Something along these lines. We're just
I would have thought if you wore that out in Germany, people would be like telling you to take that off, like go change.
the F word is used in the design of the shirt, and it's no big deal. Also, say, for example, at Unicorn's youth game.
I'm not saying that it would be like a huge deal here. Well, if you wore that to a child's park or like certainly a school, you would potentially be getting some requests to change, especially to a school. You would get people saying, you can't wear that here. Maybe that's the same way in Germany. I don't know. But at a park, you might get somebody that says, something like, why are you wearing that around the kids? That's so funny.
We'll be there, and
Don't
somebody
F
will be
with me.
DJing, kind of creating the vibe of in between plays and having music played and stuff, just so it's a good environment. And they'll be playing, some Eminem song that is just very, very explicit, and I don't think very appropriate for, 10-year-old kid football game. But then there's families all around, and we're playing some song. The DJ's playing some song of early 2000s Eminem that is heavy in the profanity and the explicit content, and it seems to be no big deal. This makes sense. English is a second language here.
Now, what's funny is, personally, I think I'm kind of bad about this. Like, by American standards, I'm kind of bad. I'm kind of German about it. I guess I could just tell people, I'm German, man. I'm not, but obviously I'm not. But, that could be my excuse. I'm German. Because I don't know what it is about songs, but I just don't care. I don't know what I can't make myself care. I want to listen to my Eminem. I'm not going to listen to the censored version, of My Name Is, or, Without Me or something. I'm going to listen to the uncensored version. And I don't care if there's kids around. I don't know why, because I would never just go screaming the F word around kids. But, with the song, I just don't care. So I'm with you guys on that one.
Curse words and explicit language don't have as much of an impact on you if it is not your native language. I see this often with shirts and clothing where, f or shit or something is imprinted on the shirt as part of the design. And it's just kind of weird to me. Cigarettes, guys. Of course, cigarettes. This is something that every American sort of is shocked by when they come to Germany, is the amount of smoking.
I would just be shocked because we all think Europeans are so healthy. If you guys would just give up the smoking, your life expectancies are already a bit higher than here in the States, most of you. And it probably would not even be close if you just gave up the smoking, guys. Because we obviously eat way too much crap here in the States. And we don't have good access to health care. So that kills us. But you guys smoke. So even though you eat a lot more healthy and have universal health care, it keeps the stats a little more aligned. So I actually appreciate that you guys do that.
And where smoking...
I wish smoking wasn't bad for you, though. It's cool. We can't lie. No, it's not cool. It's not cool.
You smell cigarette smoke basically all the time. I remember I was actually at dinner with my mom in Berchtesgaden, and we were sitting outside, and somebody was smoking next to us. And I had been in Germany for a few years at this point, and I had gotten so used to the cigarette smell and cigarette smoke just being around all the time that it didn't really even faze me. But my mom was like, oh my gosh, I can't, they're smoking right here and blowing it basically in our face. And I was like,
it's interesting because it goes back to the personal space thing. That very much coincides with it. It would be seen as a violation of your personal space to be smoking right next to somebody. So the more common prevalence of this, especially because smoking here in the States also has just a very negative connotation. And there's a lot of people who, it's not even just that they don't smoke. They don't want to be anywhere near it. They don't want to smell it. A lot of places have designated smoking areas, and if you want to smoke, you got to go there. With that said, there are still, plenty of smokers here in the States, but only probably 15% of people that I see. Something like that, maybe 20. Yeah. So that kind of the synergy between like less personal space and then also more smoking. Yeah, Americans, that might really upset some Americans.
Like, oh yeah, that is kind of wild. And this is an experience that many Americans have when they come to Germany. Cigarettes just seem to be much more common.
Luckily, I've never been one to care. I don't mind. Call me weird, I just don't mind. Like, I kind of think cigarettes smell not good, but like interesting. It's like pulling up to a gas station. You smell the gasoline in the air. It's an interesting smell.
And prevalent here. Something, I don't know. I don't know why. Don't really understand it. All right, guys. So
and also, you know what? Also, part of it is there was like, a very effective anti-smoking campaign here in the States, which is good for health overall, of course. But it coincided with a lot of like anti-secondhand smoke, which, from everything I've read, I've seen multiple studies on it. It's like way overblown. It's just, but a lot of Americans, were taught in elementary school, even secondhand smoke, being around someone who smokes, and if you inhale it, like, that's almost like you're smoking. And it's like, that is literally not true. Unless you are living in a house with someone who is smoking in the house. Even in that case, it's like not nearly as bad as smoking, but like that can actually, have some impact. But like if someone's smoking around you outside and you're sitting next to them, the amount of like smoke relative to what they're inhaling that you're inhaling from a secondhand smoke, it's like 10,000 times less. Maybe 100,000 times less, Anyway. That was very interesting. Very great video by Mr. Knopf. Check him out, link down below. If you don't know him, he's a legend. He has a lot of excellent videos about Germany. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.